All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Telehealth Interventions to Build Resilience in Kids and Youth. We are so happy to have you here this morning. 7 a.m. bright and early for me, not so bright and early for you guys. We are super excited to have you here, so we hope you enjoy. Oops, what's happening? Oh no! So sorry. Okay, here we go. Deep breaths, deep breaths. I can't find what is, oh my God, there's so many things happening right now. So sorry.
What can I help with, Jordan?
Okay, so there's a lot of people coming into the waiting room, and it's a lot of stimuli all at once.
So we need someone to manage the waiting room so that we can present.
I can absolutely do that if you all want to get started.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, I'm definitely trying that, but I'm having some technical difficulties, so I'm going to
Not a problem. I'm on it.
Stop sharing at the moment because I'm clicking things and I don't want to. All right, hold on. All right, here we go. So present. Well, Jen,
you're not screen sharing now.
I know, because it's not letting me like click to the next slide when I press present. So hold on 1 second. There's a lot of different things coming in all at once. So
we're good. Thank you guys for your patience. Here, screen share, and then I'll show you what to press.
All right.
Okay, click on where it says present, and then click on like that arrow.
Okay.
Present from beginning. And now you should just be able to click it to go to the next slide, right? Like click anywhere.
Oh, and then it just opens up like a weird tab.
Okay, well let's just do presenter view, or just like show it how it. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, so I guess I'm up. So this is me. My name is Jennifer Toof. I have a master's in clinical mental health counseling from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. I was the student chair for this very conference the last 2 or 3 years. This year I'm finally an alumni, so I get to just present and watch Jordan and Danielle take on the tough stuff behind the scenes. Right now I am pursuing my doctorate in international psychology, also from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. I work as a mental health and behavioral health clinician for children, teens, and families. And I have been doing it all in telehealth, like many of you probably have been for the last year. So that's kind of what motivated this presentation.
My name is Jordan, and I am a second-year graduate student here at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. I have not started any field work yet, but I have been a nanny for 13 years now. And that's sort of like my main population that I want to work with. So when Jen and I started doing these presentations, it really gave me more of an advantage of working with the kids that I do. And so I have been the student chair for the last couple of years with the Chicago School, helping with conference presentations. And Jen was the first person that I reached out to help me light the fire under my conference presentation bug. So I'm super excited to be here with you guys today and show you what we have for you. So today, so we will provide some information about counseling interventions that promote resilience in kids and youth via, a telehealth and an online modality. We'll explore research related to resilience in young persons especially, and then we'll look at both the challenges and the benefits of these interventions with kids, and then also the ethical considerations that we'll go over also. And then we will also bring you in as well to learn and engage in a number of different telehealth interventions aimed at building this resilience in kids and youth. And these are objectives. So we're going to look at 3 different benefits to online therapy, at least 3 practical or ethical considerations related to engaging the kids in resilience interventions, and then practicing 3 telehealth interventions that promote this resilience and be able to help you take that along with you on your in your practice.
Okay, so what is resilience? You've probably heard this word. Resilience is essentially just the ability to bounce back, to recover from difficult life events, to grow despite challenges. It's kind of like that mental reservoir of strength that you can call on in times of need to carry you through without falling apart. Resilience doesn't mean that you don't have any difficulties, challenges, or traumas in life. It's quite the opposite. It means that you do have them. You still experience emotional pain, grief, the sense of loss that comes after a tragedy, but you have the ability to work through these feelings and recover. So resilience is not a fixed thing, meaning that it's not something you're born with. It's not something that you either have or don't have. It's a skill that kids develop as they grow.
Oops. Now it's not letting me click again. I'm afraid to click. What? I literally did nothing. Oh, okay.
There we go. Well, we're going to be resilient throughout this presentation.
Yes,
So these are just some general facts about kids with resilience versus kids without resilience. Kids who are resilient are better able to handle adversity, to rebuild after a catastrophe or trauma. Something I don't think I mentioned in my intro is that I am a trauma therapist in my place of employment. I'm one of only a handful of clinicians at the site that is specifically trained and able to work with kids who have undergone trauma, and resilience. Building resilience for these kids is one of the number one, objectives, because of the benefits. Kids who are resilient are more likely to take healthy risks. They're curious, they're brave, they're trusting of their instincts. They're more able to solve problems independently. They're more goal-oriented. Conversely, kids who lack resilience are more likely to feel overwhelmed or helpless in challenging or traumatic situations. They might dwell on their problems. They might use unhealthy, destructive coping mechanisms. In the case of kids, teens, and youth, we know that might mean, alcohol, drugs, engaging in self-harm, things like that. Also, one study that I read in preparation for this presentation showed that patients who had attempted suicide, and these are teens, had significantly lower resilience scale scores than teens who had never attempted suicide. Okay, so I love this slide, and I think that this is, one to screenshot or just really remember, because these are the factors that are associated with resilience, and that any intervention with kids or adults for that matter, but especially for kids, where you're trying to build resilience, try to see if you can find a C. Is this intervention building confidence? Is it focusing on connection, on coping? So the 7 C's, the factors associated with resilience: confidence. So does the child feel like they're good at something? Confidence, do they have belief in their own worth? Connection, do they have a support system? Can you build that support system? Character, who are they? Do they have a strong sense of themselves as a character? Contribution, what do they do to help out? Coping, pretty much just coping techniques. And control, particularly having an internal locus of control as opposed to an external locus of control, is strongly associated with resilience in kids. And I also really like this slide because you can just kind of think of resilience as protective factors outweighing risk factors. So you're probably familiar with protective and risk factors if you're working in the counseling field. Protective factors: warm, supportive parenting, coping skills, a stable environment, positive experiences. Risk factors are all the adversities and challenges that they face in their lives.
So, resilience in youth, what does the research say? So, psychological resilience consists of the positive adaptation to adversity and the ability to recover from those challenges and adapt to change. So, what, solution focused and canine assisted therapies that are used a lot with children is they offer opportunities for those kids to connect in meaningful ways with counselors and therapy dogs to promote recognition of strengths and abilities and to progress towards clinical goals. And I know that for myself, having, a dog or an animal or something to sort of have with me when I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling like stressed out or something happened and I need something there to sort of offer me that emotional comfort. That's something that really helps with kids as they're able to sort of connect a little bit better with a dog or a cat or let's say a lizard or a reptile. And so with this piece of information, towards the end of our presentation, we will have an animal that we'll be using and showing later on to help
foreshadowing.
Sort of to demonstrate that resilience building. And we will have like a little disclaimer just to let you know that if you're uncomfortable with that animal, you can definitely excuse yourself or just try and stay with us so we can help build your resilience and sort of help you with that exercise as well. And resilience appears to be the crucial clue to help with the COVID-19 pandemic implications as well, with what we've read.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up COVID right now, Jordan, because we should have mentioned that right in the beginning. But one of the challenges that kids and teens and all of us are facing right now is the pandemic, and it's so important to build resilience in these kids now, what they're going through, with the changes of this past year.
And I also, sorry about that. I also had like more information to talk about, but I didn't flip my note card. So one of the things that I have written down here is that the emerging body of multicultural resilience research also suggests that there are unique protective processes, practices, and intergenerational traditions that have been enriched or that have enriched the study of resilience in multiple disciplines and have opened new lines of inquiry for future studies. So that's something really important as well. And also knowing that, resilience, like Jen said, resilience isn't something that you're born with. Resilience is something that you're nurturing all the time. And, there's with this COVID-19 pandemic, we've all had to change something or another with our daily lives. And that's building resilience. That's taking that change and adapting to it and making ourselves stronger in those particular areas.
Exactly. So now let's turn to the topic of online therapy, because this is about building resilience in kids via telehealth interventions. So many of you probably by now have realized that there are a number of benefits to online therapy. Some of the benefits specific to kids and youth include access. That's kind of general for everyone, a benefit. For those in rural, remote areas, those with physical limitations, and those with transportation difficulties. Convenience is really great for families, busy families, parents who really struggle to get their kids to a therapy session, driving them, figuring out how they're going to get them can be a challenge. So being able to just log in from their home is a tremendous benefit. Comfort is a great benefit, particularly for kids and youth, because they can meet with the counselor from the comfort and familiarity of their own homes. A more comfortable setting means there's less intimidation and more motivation to engage. It can be intimidating when you're sitting face to face with a therapist, especially when you're a kid. Kids can design their own safe space for sessions when they're in their home. They can have their own favorite comfort items, a pet, a blanket, stuffed animal, snacks, whatever it might be for them. They have that C control, back to that C slide, to design their space. And it also gives information that the counselor might have never gotten in a traditional office setting. So actually last week, I was in a telehealth setting with an 18-year-old client, and the mother burst in the room while we were in session and said, you know, what the F is this, holding up a bottle of alcohol that was the daughter's that she found in the house. So that is something that never would have happened if we were in, you know, in my office, and I got to see, you know, how both of them reacted in this kind of situation in the home firsthand. So again, so that home-based session via telehealth, it can really help the kids and counselors work through behaviors at the scene of the crime, so to speak.
Now we have the challenges of online therapy. So, you know, there is still a lot of available research on many online interventions with various groups. You know, the cost of acquiring and implementing and maintaining the technology needed to be able to, you know, give this type of online therapy, and, you know, the time associated with training on this technology. And, you know, just like we had today, there's technological problems and unreliable technology and services that happen that we just cannot control. And so at the beginning of this, when I was clicking all these things and nothing was working, like that's something that could happen in the middle of a session, or Zoom goes out, or maybe your client starts to glitch, and then you sort of have to use, you know, what you know and what you learn, and you have to just realize and maybe use that with your client, like, hey, this is something we cannot control, but we can prepare for it, and this is something that we could just work towards. And sorry about that, I got so many notes here. All right. And then, you know, challenges of online therapy specific to kids and youth, obviously paying attention for, you know, preschool kids, or, you know, some of the younger kids, and then kids with ADHD, you know, online therapy requires them to sit still for longer. And so sort of putting that to light is a lot of kids, these younger kids are now having to sit in front of a computer for school. And for firsthand, I sit with the second grader all day for school, and there's fidgeting, and there's not a lot of paying attention, and they want to draw and they want to do this. And so that's something that we have to learn as counselors, to sort of be able to engage them, or find a way to maybe bring a parent in to sort of help with that, or maybe have shorter check-ins and have like a parent support session that might be a little bit easier. And then obviously the distractions. So there could be a dog that's running around, or there could be you know, parents fighting in the background, or siblings fighting in the background. So the difficulty of focus is something that it can really be a challenge. And then, you know, for kids with ADHD, adding an extra movement to your sessions can help, but maybe an online therapy modality may not be the best fit. So that would be something that you'd have to work with the parents, or the guardians of the individual in therapy. Oh, and the ethical considerations, though, the big one. So, you know, in general, all of the AC ethical standards apply equally face-to-face services as they do the online modality. You know, informed consent, competence, confidentiality, doing no harm, all of that great stuff that I feel like is just ingrained in our heads, which I'm so grateful for. So additionally, the competence and training in telehealth with technology being used, that's something that's super important. The use of encryption software and other efforts to preserve that confidentiality, informed consent regarding telehealth and the limits of it, increased considerations if the client's experiencing suicidal thoughts. Are you prepared to give a suicide assessment? Are you sure that there is an emergency contact that you can call if needed? Or, you know, if your distance, if your client is, you know, further away, is there a parent home? Is there someone you can call? So being able to have those methods in place is really important if you're over an online modality. And then rules about parental permission for children vary depending on the state and the licensing organization. So speaking on that, some states may require parents to give permission for these kids to attend online therapy, and other states may allow a teen to sign up without the parental knowledge. So we're not taking questions right now, but if you want to put in the chat of states that you know of that have those different rules and regulations, we would love to hear about them and learn about them. So if you want to put those in the chat, that would be great.
I don't think, since we didn't have a room monitor introduced in the beginning, we will take questions at the end, but if anyone has questions, comments, ideas, thoughts,
Sure,
please
because
share them.
we're short on time.
Colleen.
But yeah, we have a lot of time left still. So if people want to jump in and ask questions or add anything, we have time.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the experiential part, and we're going to practice some resilience building interventions. Oh, we have a few discussion prompts. Yes, we do. Some resilience building telehealth interventions for kids. Yes, live reptiles will be used as part of resilience interventions. It's going to be the second one we do. For the first and third one, I would like you guys to practice along. If you'd like, all you require is something to draw with and a piece of paper. So I'm going to give you guys just a minute to grab something. See, and that's the point. We're building resilience. Okay. Jordan's grabbing her writing instrument. And you know what? Truly, since I've been practicing telehealth interventions with kids and youth for I guess over a year now, solely via telehealth, I think I've learned that almost any intervention that you could do face to face can be adapted for telehealth. I mean, you really just have to be creative. Almost every single one, there's some way you can do it. So these interventions aren't necessarily telehealth interventions. And you will see that there's, like we said, certain benefits and considerations related to telehealth, but you just got to be creative. Yes, you can bring your live reptile. Go, and that's.
Ooh, we're gonna have another one.
Kristen wrote in the chat that she's gonna get hers. And when we get to that one, you will see why. Okay, so here's the first one that we're gonna do, and this is called My Gifts. So again, if you'd like to play along, please do. So this one kind of goes, if you think back to that 7 C's slide, this one really relates to the C's of confidence and competence. So what you have the child do is draw either a box, or are you doing this, Jordan?
I mean, I'm doing it. Yes.
Okay. Whoever's playing along, draw a box. And, if you prepare for this in advance, you can have them grab a box or a gift bag. And then essentially on little pieces of paper, they're going to write all the gifts that they have. So their good qualities, their talents, their strengths. And you're going to fill the box with that. So if you're just doing it solely on paper, you can just write them, somewhere within the box. If you have a physical box or bag, you can write it on little slips of paper and then put them in there. So, Jordan, what are some of your gifts?
My gifts are that I am super dedicated. I guess one of the gifts is I start and end things. So I don't just start things, but like when I start a project, I make sure I follow it through all the way to the end. And I guess my good quality would be that I'm very, this is a hard one. I don't want to do a generic one, but I guess I'm very kind. Like I guess a giver. I'm always wanting to give, and I'm always wanting to make sure that everyone around me is taken care of first before myself. So I can say that that's a really good quality that I have.
Love that. Feel free, other people, to write your gifts in the chat. I don't know most of you, so I want to hear what your gifts are. But then, the therapist can follow that up with asking some more direct questions. So Jordan, tell me about a time where you followed through with something without giving up.
Well, writing papers for class is super stressful, and sometimes I feel like, what, I can't do this, but I've found ways to be able to make it a little bit easier and a lot less daunting. So I'll start it earlier than when it's due, to sort of give me that sort of confidence, like, hey, so I did a couple paragraphs today, it wasn't so bad, and then tomorrow I'll go back and I do a little bit more. And so being able to start projects with the mindset of, okay, I don't have to do it all at once, I don't have to do it all right now, but if I start and take little baby steps towards getting it done, that makes it a lot less daunting.
I'm putting you on the spot a lot. I apologize. Tell me about a time that you demonstrated kindness.
Well, really weirdly, yesterday on my way to work, there was the neighbor that I work next to, his gate was open and his dogs were out. And so I went to the front door and I let them know that their dogs were out because they didn't know. And so that was like a really weird kindness thing that I did. It doesn't happen all the time, but I feel like that was the kindness in my heart. Like, hey, those are someone's dogs. I would really hate if, my dogs got loose and someone just walked by and didn't say anything. So really random, but it did happen.
So there's a whole session right there, writing down, having the kid think of things and talk about an experience about them. Erica put in the chat, what suggestions do you have for students very defended against identifying gifts who may have very low self-esteem and or trauma? Great question. I think we all, know or have been in an experience where someone is not able to receive compliments about themselves, or that can be a really challenging thing. So of course, like any intervention, you want to make sure that this is right for the individual client. So if it's going to be an exercise that's overwhelming for them or produces more stress than produces stress at all, really, because we don't, that's the opposite of our intention, then maybe this isn't the best. How are other ways that you can instill confidence in a child? If they have such low self-esteem that it's really hard for them, like they say, there's nothing, I don't have any gifts. So maybe the counselor in that case could think of something and say, like, you know what, you make me laugh in every session. Like, you say really funny things, and so I think you're funny. What do you think? Has anyone told you you're funny? If there's a caregiver home, which is another benefit of telehealth, that there may be other people in the household, siblings. What do you think? Why is Jordan a good sister? Okay, let's write that gift down. What do you love about your child? And then that could provoke a discussion there. Would you say that sometimes you won't know what works until you try? The client will let us know whether it works by their reaction. Yeah, I think that's true for everything, right?
Yes. Or maybe even like if the child or your client is a bit more talkative and more open, maybe ask them, like, what is something that they would enjoy doing, or what is something that they would feel comfortable doing, like, hey, do you want to bring your dog to your session with us, or do you want to bring your stuffed animal, and maybe have your stuffed animal tell me what what they love about you, or how you're a kind person. So sort of putting it in their court and letting them have the reins to their session could be an easier way to get them to be more comfortable.
Yeah, and that's especially a great question, I think, for the next. So next Jordan's going to go into the animals in just a second, but so an animal presentation of this sort probably isn't a good first session activity, right? I know Jordan's going to talk about it too, so I don't want to step on her toes, but particularly for the reptiles, the key there is connection and control with those C's, that you want to have a strong therapeutic rapport with the client before you engage in this, and you want them to be in control. So just like any of you who are, saying, I'm going to sit this one out, I don't want to see a reptile, that you have the control, especially in this telehealth format. So, you can minimize us, you can, turn the sound off, you can walk in the other room, you have the control. And, me and Jordan, you don't know us, probably all of you, that well, but, pretend having a really strong therapeutic rapport with us.
All right. Ugh, again.
There we go.
Why?
It's coming. Oh. Maybe it's clicking on the picture and you have to, there we go.
All right. All right. So this is not an actual picture of my snake, but it's a spitting image. So this is my snake, Aphrodite. And she is 4 years old. We got her when she was like only about a foot long. And she's really cool. She only just sits and chills all day long. And I only have to feed her once a week. So it's really fun. So Aphrodite is a ball python, and she is one of the most chill snakes I've ever experienced. She has never been aggressive, never hissed, never struck at me. She literally just likes to crawl around and, sniff you guys out and see what you're doing. So like Jen said, if we're going to be doing animal assisted therapeutic interventions with kids, obviously making sure that we have a strong therapeutic bond before I just come and show up with a snake so the kid's not just freaking out. So any exposure like interventions, you want to make sure that you have that trust with your client first. And then obviously, if we're going to take this into an example, so, your gut reaction might want to be like, oh my God, we need to take the snake away. Snakes are dangerous. Snakes are scary. But with a child, when they're faced with a challenge or an adversity, jumping in and sort of taking that challenge away or taking that adversity away is actually weakening that resilience for them. And so, as counselors, we want to make sure that we're strengthening that resilience and strengthening their ability to sort of adapt and overcome those particular challenges. So we need to experience the discomfort to be able to realize, like, hey, this snake doesn't want to eat me. The snake doesn't want to hurt me. The snake just wants to smell around and sniff you out and say hello. And so when we're working with kids, we want to show them that, hey, not everything wants to eat you. Not everything wants to harm you. So let's work through this feeling. So, Jen, if you're having some difficulties with the snake right now, we could work through like, hey, okay, so we're feeling a little uncomfortable with the snake. So what exactly is this snake making you feel right now, Jen?
I love snakes, so I'm just gonna pretend.
I know that.
And I have a ball python upstairs, but I will pretend anxious, heart racing, calm, sweaty.
Okay, so when we're working through those emotions, how can we let them know, like, hey, we since we're doing it over telehealth, we can't just put the snake in their lap and sort of go through that exposure like therapy, but we can be like, hey, this snake wants to say hello and wants to tell you that it's not very scary and it really wants to be friends with you and it wants to learn more about you. So why don't you tell the snake what you like to do for fun, and sort of show, as the session is going on, we can sort of work through that, those sweaty palms and the anxious heart rate. And as we're going through the session, we can check in like, hey, is your heart beating really fast anymore? And no, it's not. And it's like, okay, well, great. Well, Aphrodite's really proud of you for taking those steps and not screaming and not being really scared of her. So she's really proud of you for doing all that work for her. So
it's really, and that's when you can introduce those relaxation techniques too. And remember, this is not exposure therapy. I want to make that clear. You wouldn't do this with a child who has a crippling fear of snakes. However, unrelated, but the telehealth format is a great way to do that kind of exposure, because they can see it, over a screen where there is more control as opposed to in person. And facing fear really is so empowering. And having someone like Jordan holding the snake, that right support. If they're in telehealth, maybe they have a supportive caregiver in the home with them.
And
know,
also,
telling
you'd
them,
be
yeah.
able, as a counselor, you'd be able to refer back to this, intervention in another session. Like, hey, remember how scared you were at the snake? But then you pushed through that fear and you were able to talk to the snake and let the snake know, like, hey, I'm a little scared of you right now, but I know that you're not going to want to hurt me. And so you can sort of walk through, like, do you remember what that felt like? Walk me through that. And then, we're not, we're working through that particular fear. So that's something that, with telehealth, it sort of gives you an easier option instead of, if you were in the office setting, you couldn't really bring a snake in and you couldn't really bring a dog in, I would love that. So it sort of gives it, that invisible barrier, like, hey, we can use animals, and it would sort of take away that scary factor because they're not, right there at our face. So
yeah. I forget what I was gonna say. Okay, so Kristen, who do you have for us? Wait, can we unmute? Oh, there you go.
This is my, as she's bobbing. This is my son's leatherhead bearded dragon, leatherback bearded dragon. So she's sweet as can be. It's you kind of see my glare in the back. Here, let me move.
oh wow, she's beautiful.
So yeah, super sweet, and she loves to be in my hair though. So I'm trying to like keep her out. She likes to curl right behind my head and kind of hang out in my hair. I think probably because that's pretty warm right there. But yeah, she's super sweet, but it is interesting to see like how some people are very nervous. But I mean, I could definitely see how that would be applicable and be able to actually help build resilience and how that can apply. So yes, it's an animal, but an animal still invokes a lot of feelings. And so that would be a great opportunity to kind of then parallel that process to the client's, I guess, fears or kind of what's going on in their own life.
Exactly.
Do you think you would have clients that you could bring him out for in a telehealth?
So yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's definitely people that would be, it would intrigue them.
And this guy climbing up me, by the way, this is this is Geico. Geico is a leopard gecko. And he's really sweet. Now, an interesting thing about this kind of gecko is they are super resilient. So see this tail and how it kind of maybe looks like his head? So that is a way that they protect themselves, because if a predator comes by, the predator might bite their tail instead of their head. Now, what happens if they bite the tail? So these geckos can actually detach their tail in that situation, and it will grow back. So there's, the perfect example of resilience, that something really traumatic can happen. Part of, the animal can be lost in that situation, but it comes back. It comes back. It might come back bigger. It might come back smaller. It might come back a different color. So.
Yeah, so this is probably the coolest session people are going to go to, because we got all our animals.
Early in the day, but I guarantee it's the most interesting one, y'all.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing, Kristen. She's so pretty.
Oh, an Aphrodite. All right. And so if anyone left because of reptiles, you could come on back. This one, again, you can do it in session now with us, or you can just think about it in your head. I love this one. I've done this intervention with clients of different ages and needs. So this is just called Hold On, Let Go. All you need is a paper and something to write with. If they're old enough and able to, you can have them use scissors to cut. So essentially, the client traces both of their hands If they're old enough, like I said, they can cut them out, or if they have a parent there, caregiver, can help them. If not, consider doing each hand on a separate piece of paper, because that's important. They have to be separated. So you're going to fill one hand, either drawing or writing, with things you want to hold on to. The other hand is going to be things you want to let go of. So can anyone either in the chat or come off of mute tell me what are examples of things you or a client might want to hold on to? Security. Hold on to resentment. Control. What about things that they shame, bitterness? What are things, would you say these are things they might want to let go of? Because remember, there's two separate hands. So one hand is things that they want to let go of, and one thing is things they want to hold on to. So we would encourage the child to hold on to hand to be those things that serve them more, you know, so, and then to fill that let go of hand more with the shame, the resentment. Understanding that there's a reason you have it, right? You've been holding on to it because it has served you in some way, but can you let it go? What would it feel like to let it go? So holding on to maybe love, holding on to positive memories, friends, kindness, security, letting go of, you know, maybe negative memories, the shame, the guilt.
Like if we're talking about young kids, like letting go of the scary monsters, or the mean person, or and then having them hold on to mommy and daddy or sister and brother, and sort of being able to accept that type of language, because if we're talking about younger kids, they're going to have those types of things like, yeah, I want to hold on to my teddy bear, or I want to hold on to my dog, and sort of giving them that ability to understand, like, okay, holding on means I want to keep it, and then letting go means I don't want it anymore. So sort of adapting that language.
Right. And then the fun part, or the most fun part to me, I think, is after that. So the hold on hand, you want to encourage the client to keep that, to put it somewhere safe. And then the let go hand, destroy it, and that can be really fun and cathartic. Just, okay, so you have a visual representation of shame, resentment, anger, trauma, boogeyman under the bed. Rip it up, crumple it up, take it outside and bury it under dirt. Set fire to it if they're maybe a teenager under caregiver supervision. I did that actually, and her smoke alarm went off, but it was funny. It made us laugh, and it was a controlled environment. Okay, we can go on to the next so that we have room for questions.
Okay. Even more interventions. So something that I'm working on with the kids that I work with is setting and keeping a routine. So getting their chores done every day, making their bed every morning, help make breakfast every morning, make sure they're throwing away their food in the trash every time they're done. Being able to label their emotions. How are you feeling? Are you feeling angry? Are you tired? Are you sad? How else could you help with labeling their emotions? And then, those coping skills that we talked about, the deep breathing and the counting. And, yesterday with the second grader that I work with, I'm unintentionally working on these different skills with her, but, we were walking the dog, and the dog was getting stressed, and she goes to the dog, take a deep breath, ready? And she was doing the deep breathing exercise with the dog, and I just put my hand to my heart, and I was just so proud. And then, Jen added a bunch of other ones on here, but that it could be worse. So, we made that example, like, I fell off my bike, and okay, it could be worse. What else could have happened? You could have scraped your knee. You could have hurt your ankle. You could have, hit your head on the pavement. So sort of, I guess this would be something we'd have to work with kids that are a little bit older, where they could really understand, like, okay, there really could be something worse that could happen.
And making sure that you're validating their, because it was bad, whatever happened to them, but then, kind of using like CBT to think, okay, well, what could it could have been worse, you know, so let's think of that. And with little kids, it can be, you can make it funny, like a dinosaur could have came and bit me. Or
So, you know, online coloring pages and watching YouTube videos and, you know, family games and sessions. So, you know, having family members in the session with you, focusing on that, one of those C's, the connection that Jen talked about. And then, you know, the game, I'm going on a picnic. So I don't know if anyone's ever played that game before, but, you know, it would start with one person, I'm going on a picnic and I'm going to bring an apple. And we go through the ABCs and you pick a food that starts with the next letter. But the whole point is you have to remember the last person's item. So I'm going on a picnic and I'm going to bring apples. And then Jen would say,
I would say I'm going on a picnic and I'm bringing apples and bananas.
And then it would just go in, you know, in sequential order like that. So that could be something really fun too to play. And then a virtual scavenger hunt. I know Jen's talked about how she's, you know, had her clients, you know, go find me something that makes you happy. And they go and they bring, you know, a stuffed animal, and then you'd have that intervention to talk about why that stuffed animal.
Great for telehealth because they're in their homes, you know, they can find us.
Yes. And so if you have any more examples that you want to provide that aren't on here, we'd love to hear them. I know we have a couple more minutes for questions.
Well, there's one more that I just put on the next slide. This is so I love this. I found this when I was researching. So this is it's called Famous Failures. It's a printable set of worksheets highlighting famous people from around the world who have failed and struggled on their way to success. You have to pay for this specific one, but you don't have to use that specific one, right? Like you can talk about, okay, well, what did, you know, Barack Obama go through before he became president? You know, how did he struggle and fail on his way to success? Or, you know, they can give examples if they know, you know, someone that struggled.
Or maybe they can even go as far as, you know, hey, my mommy didn't have a job for a really long time, but then she worked really hard and then she got a job and now we can, you know, we can go to Disneyland, or, you know, just something. I know these are like way out of the box, but that's also something that we talk about as well. Like someone in their family, you know, wasn't doing very well, but then they worked really hard and then, you know, they were.
How have the people in their lives been resilient?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was, thank you guys. Does it end at 10:50 or 10:55? I don't know.
50, I think.
Okay, but we have a couple minutes for questions, comments, ideas.
And thank you so much for working with me with the technical difficulties. I was dying on the inside, but I think I think
you were resilient. Yeah. Yes or no? Are you putting the? Colleen, why did you put, are there benefits of online therapy with kids and youth?
Yep, I just wanted to promote some discussion. So a few questions to just talk through together.
Yes.
From the participant perspective, maybe.
We don't bite.
Thank you.
Nothing? No questions?
And thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Kristen, to bringing your baby out. Art therapy online is a great one. So remember with telehealth, when you screen share, you can do a whiteboard. So you can draw on the screen. There are, you know, you can actually do, you know, formal art therapy stuff. You can collaborate with the parents before session or ask them, you know, so hey, next session, can you make sure you have, you know, glue stick, this, that, the other.
Someone just mentioned music too. So if they have like a drum or they have a tambourine or a maraca, that could be something that they could bring into the next session, and, you know, we could work on music. That's definitely something we could use as well. How do you feel with pacing the session online? I find it more challenging to pace things virtually. I can definitely, well, I don't have online modality, so I can't speak to it, but Jen, if you want to speak to that, you can really quick.
Well, why do you think it's harder pacing it online, Lauren?
Lauren, if you want to come off mute, you can.
Hello?
Hey.
Hi. Sorry, my children are in the background, so I apologize in advance. It's something about, I guess, maybe the energy or kind of, so in session, when clients are in the room with me, I find it much easier to kind of tell, okay, is this overwhelming for them? Do I need to back off? Do I need to redirect to something lighter so that we can kind of touch on the topic and then move away? But online, I don't know if it has to do with maybe the quality of the video or the connection, but I find it more difficult to gauge their responses.
That's a
Does that make sense?
good, yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, I think a benefit of online therapy, and it depends, you know, who you work for and billing requirements, but that if you can end session maybe a little earlier or go a little longer if you don't have someone, you know, a parent waiting to get you in the car because they're at home. So if it's like absolutely not going anywhere and you're at 40 minutes, you know, again, your place might require you to go to 50 minutes, but you know, I think you can have a little bit more flexibility there with telehealth. I would say with telehealth too, if it's kind of stagnant like that, they could take a break. You know, maybe they go take a break. Go get a snack. Can you go to your kitchen? Do you want to go, you know, see your dog for a minute, or you know, whatever that might be. And also just reading their, you know, you might not be able to see the whole body, but you can read their facial expressions.
Yeah.
And having structure, as you know, just as it is in person, having structure in telehealth, especially for kids, is important so that they know, okay, in the beginning we check in, and then we do this, and then around this time we wrap up. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yes, thank you.
Well, if anyone doesn't have any more questions, you're free to go and join the other presentations that are happening today. And we really appreciate you coming here and sort of interacting with us and, you know, being here today.
But I'll put Leanne, I just put my email in the chat. Jordan, if you want to put yours too, if anyone has. Oh, teens who don't want to show their face. Yeah, so I have 2 clients right now like that. I'll just answer quickly. I don't make them show their face if they don't want to. As long as they're on audio. One of the clients who doesn't show their face is transgender, so there's gender dysphoria involved. So the fact that they're over telehealth makes it, you know, more comfortable for them. They didn't even want to be on audio in the beginning, and they were typing in the chat box. And the way that I kind of increased that engagement was, okay, so how about we do 2-minute check-in on, you know, not on mute for the beginning. And then if you want to go back on mute, you can. And after a couple weeks like that, you know, they're pretty much talking to me on audio the whole time. They're still off video, and that's fine. You know, again, it's case by case. Like if you think they're off video because they're, you know, playing video games or something, you know, then you might have to set firmer boundaries.
Awesome. Well, I know we're past time here, and we got people coming in and out. So I want to just give people a chance to go and find other sessions and have a great rest of their day.
Take care, guys.